welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to delve into an incredible tale about Rick Harrison, the well-known porn star who was once a cherished father figure and a well-known figure on television. Rick shocked the country when he appeared in court and admitted to horrific crimes that no one could have predicted. How did a man who was once adored by millions of people become a notorious criminal? The story took a darker turn when investigators discovered a terrifying secret that was hidden beneath the porn shop. A basement that had been closed to the public for a long time? Below what appeared to be a typical porn shop lay a nightmare world hidden in plain sight, a dark basement concealing horrors. If this revelation has left you in disbelief, please hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next unbelievable story. Below the flicker of dim lights and inside makeshift cells that revealed the heart of a gruesome human trafficking ring, children were held captive, their identities stripped, and they were funneled through a vast underground network that had remained hidden for years. When the FBI finally raided the underground prison, it wasn't just a rescue effort for the kids imprisoned there. It was the start of a massive, extensive investigation. However, what agents found in the shadows went far beyond their worst fears. In addition to unquestionable proof of human trafficking, they found a cache of high-value documents, financial records, secret communications, and materials that could reveal the extensive network behind the operation. Involvement from influential people, such as government officials and business owners. The more the FBI investigated, the more it became evident that this was not a local crime, but rather a highly sophisticated criminal empire, with extensive and dangerous connections throughout the world. The investigation swiftly spread outside of the U.S., compelling the FBI to work urgently with law enforcement from other countries. What started as a covert basement raid had now descended into a global search for justice. As the investigation revealed a horrifying truth, this was no isolated crime. The FBI partnered with agencies in Mexico, Central America, and even Southeast Asia to track down the criminals of this extensive transnational trafficking network. They found that the syndicate had been smuggling children across borders and selling them to the highest bidders for years. The horror didn't end there, though, as the syndicate's reach also included the illegal weapons, drugs, and stolen antiques black market trade. Using a maze of front companies, offshore accounts, and shadowy entities, the FBI focused on the financial machinery driving this underground empire as the case grew. The network used these complex channels to funnel illicit profits through the identities of its top players, and forensic accountants relentlessly followed the money trail from Harrison's porn shop's front doors all the way to the center of the global trafficking operation. However, the most horrifying twist may have come from the digital front. Under the surface of the dark web, traffickers ran covert marketplaces, disguised as legitimate transactions, where children were traded like commodities. These platforms were protected by layers of encryption and sophisticated cybersecurity techniques, making them nearly invisible. The FBI, assisted by elite cybercrime units, launched a relentless digital manhunt. But destroying this virtual hell proved to be one of their most difficult tasks. Social media and other hidden corners of the internet had turned into weapons of exploitation. However, when the FBI delved deeper into the shadows of this horrific operation, they discovered a terrifying level of sophistication. The traffickers had perfected countless ways to hide their communications and financial transactions, making them all but untouchable. However, a breakthrough occurred, and important arrests started to rip through the network's core. But even as high-ranking operatives were removed, one harsh reality persisted. The real masterminds were still out there, planning the horror from the shadows. The aftermath for the rescued children was one of the most heartbreaking aspects of the investigation. These young victims were found imprisoned beneath Rick Harrison's porn shop and had endured unspeakable abuse. Their trauma was deep, and many of them were too broken to trust even those who had come to save them. The FBI, in collaboration with committed social workers, trauma specialists, and anti-human trafficking advocates, started the protracted and agonizing process of healing, assisting the children in gradually recovering fragments of their stolen lives. This was not just a case, it was one of the most intricate and terrifying investigations the FBI had ever encountered. It involved a worldwide network of cruelty, corruption, and crime connected to both powerful people and criminal organizations. Despite the gloom, the mission persisted, and the message was clear. No matter how big or how well hidden justice came, it would not stop until the final link in this vicious chain was broken. However, this investigation is far from being finished for the rescued children and the devastated families left in the wake of this operation. The FBI's unwavering pursuit of justice offers a glimmer of hope amid overwhelming darkness. But the full scope of this global trafficking is still looming. More arrests are imminent, but what has already been uncovered serves as a chilling wake-up call, proof that vicious criminal networks thrive in plain sight in the heart of our society, exploiting the most vulnerable for profit. The case surrounding Rick Harrison's porn shop is only the tip of the iceberg. It's a glimpse into a much larger, far more sinister world that has been developing unnoticed for years. Authorities are now working quickly to dismantle the network piece by piece, in order to bring every last offender to justice. The country was rocked by the revelation that there was an underground prison beneath Rick Harrison's shop. The man was once hailed as the charming, hardworking. If you're prepared to delve deeper into the untold truths and shocking turns that are yet to come, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on. The star of Porn Stars, who had been a familiar face on national television for more than 10 years, was now being linked to one of the most horrific crimes imaginable for countless fans who admired his down-to-earth persona. The betrayal hit like a punch to the gut. The fallout was swift and devastating, with public trust shattered, and the truth forcing everyone to face a reality darker than anyone ever imagined. Notifications. This is just the beginning, and the story is far from over. When the horrific truth was revealed, it seemed as though the world had fallen apart. Over 300 children had been found trapped beneath Rick Harrison's porn shop, many of them trafficked from Southeast Asia and Central America. The enormity of the atrocity was nearly unfathomable. How could a man who was once viewed as straight, likable, and grounded a television personality that millions of people adored be involved in something so unthinkably evil in just a few moments? Global news outlets scrambled to unearth every detail as the story unfolded, and the revelations only became more shocking. Harrison's past financial dealings and his possible connections to an international trafficking syndicate were brought into the spotlight, and the amiable face that was once frequently seen on porn stars became the focal point of a sinister global scandal. Rick Harrison was no longer a symbol of eccentric American entrepreneurship. Instead, he had become a symbol of treachery, and longtime fans' faith was shattered, and social media became a storm of disbelief, anger, and heartbreak as the hashtag #NotMePornstar trended for days, a virtual outcry from people grappling with betrayal. Millions of people couldn't reconcile the man they welcomed into their homes for more than 10 years, with the monster now accused of running a trafficking operation from beneath his shop. The names of the people we admire the most, Harrison and Corey Chumley, which once felt familiar and comforting, are now echoed with suspicion. The famous Las Vegas porn shop, which was once praised for its funny deals and historical finds, has become the center of a nightmare. The idea that a place that was once anonymous with nostalgia and entertainment could conceal something so sinister shook people to their core and made one thing glaringly obvious: nothing is ever as it seems. According to law enforcement sources, Harrison hadn't just turned a blind eye. He was accused of complicity in the transportation of trafficked children through his shop laundering. The possibility that Harrison could be at the center of one of the most horrific human trafficking rings ever uncovered was nearly too much for the public to handle. As investigators dug deeper, the story grew darker and new details surfaced every day, each more damning than the last. Even though there was no direct connection to kidnappings, the evidence showed that Harrison was deeply involved in a monstrous operation. What shocked the world even more was how Harrison was able to maintain his public persona as the reliable, relatable owner of a porn shop on a popular reality show, while this unspeakable horror was taking place behind the scenes. The public's reaction swiftly changed from shock to anger to fear, wondering how something so heinous could operate in plain sight for so long. Legislators rushed to propose stricter regulations on porn shops and cash-heavy businesses. Some even called for mandatory reporting of all transactions out of fear that these stores were being used. However, this case didn't just involve one man. It revealed a much more terrifying truth. Human trafficking thrives in silence, woven into everyday places we think we know. As the investigation progressed, Rick Harrison faced a legal storm, unlike anything he had ever imagined. He was accused of money laundering, trafficking, and dealing in stolen antiques. And if found guilty, he would be sentenced to life in prison. Although his legal team resisted, the evidence was mounting and public scrutiny was still present, raising the terrifying question of whether Harrison was actually a mastermind, or if he had been used as a pawn in a much larger, darker game. One thing was certain, though: the shocking discovery beneath Rick Harrison's porn shop was only the beginning. a catalyst for a chain of events that would ripple across the entire world. The guilt and manipulation became more hazy, and some people started to question whether he had known the full extent of what was happening right beneath his feet, or if he had been taken advantage of by a far more powerful criminal web. The public's initial outpouring of horror and betrayal was intense, but the legal system would ultimately decide whether Harrison would be held responsible for the unimaginable crimes he was accused of. For the victims, the hundreds of children who were saved from the dark, the road to recovery had only just begun, and they were now receiving care and psychological support. The lengthy and intricate investigation to uncover the extensive criminal network that was causing their suffering was far from over the world. The case wasn't just about Rick Harrison, it was about the pernicious reach of human trafficking and the worldwide fight to stop it. Once admired as the amiable face of porn stars, Harrison now found himself at the center of a legal firestorm that could redefine how such international crimes are prosecuted. As media attention increased and law enforcement concentrated on fabricating a case that would stand the test of time, his defense team immediately adopted a strategy based on denial and deflection, arguing that Harrison had no knowledge of the full scope of the atrocities occurring beneath his shop, and that he was an unwitting participant in a criminal scheme orchestrated by others. The charges, which included staggering human trafficking, money laundering conspiracy, and complicity in the sale of stolen antiques, could destroy his legacy and put him behind bars for life. Business was unaware that his store had turned into a front for one of the most sinister operations in modern history. The defense argued that many of the financial transactions the FBI had flagged could have been part of regular pawn shop operations, and that Harrison was not directly involved in the sale of stolen goods. But the prosecution presented a much more sinister picture, armed with a trail of financial records, communication logs, and payment links to known traffickers. As the dust settles and the world awaits the verdict, one thing is certain: Rick Harrison's trial will not only determine his fate, but could also set a significant precedent in the fight against human trafficking. They claim that Harrison was not only aware that he was complicit, but that he played a crucial role in money laundering and facilitating the movement of trafficked children through his business, while maintaining the appearance of legitimacy to them. Once hailed as the down-to-earth, sharp-witted face of porn stars, Rick Harrison's rise and fall reads like a Hollywood thriller turned nightmare. Harrison built a multi-million-dollar empire from a humble Las Vegas pawn shop, a place where history and commerce collided under the guise of harmless entertainment. But behind the scenes, the case that started as the shocking fall of a television personality has evolved into a landmark one that may ultimately determine how deeply justice can cut into the hidden horrors of our modern world. Claiming that Harrison's pawn shop was at the heart of a vast network of criminal activity, a front used to launder money and traffic stolen antiques that ultimately funded one of the most horrific human trafficking rings in modern history. The FBI's investigation shattered the illusion and revealed a reality too dark to imagine. The evidence includes damning financial records, surveillance footage, and digital communications that all point to Harrison's direct involvement with known criminal organizations. Despite the overwhelming weight of these revelations, Harrison continues to deny everything he claims ignorance, painting himself as a victim, a successful businessman unintentionally caught in the web of a much larger trafficking ring. Criminals' emails, phone logs, and video clips place him in contact with trafficking operatives, and several rescued victims and former members of the ring have come forward to testify that Harrison was not only aware of the atrocities, but also actively involved in moving children through his business. Conspiracy. His defense maintains that there is no evidence that Harrison was aware of the underground prison, or that he approved of any trafficking activities. However, the prosecution takes a different stance, claiming that the money trails, covert payments, and whisper transactions are too exact to be coincidence. They have constructed a case that implies Harrison wasn't a bystander, but rather a key player who helped launder money, facilitate illegal transactions, and even, in one shocking turn of events, was accused of planning the murder of A. The nation is debating Harrison's guilt, and the fallout has gone far beyond his personal legacy. It sparked a broader reckoning in the porn industry, leading lawmakers to call for sweeping regulatory reforms. The once celebrated porn shop has become a symbol of deceit, and the man who personified the American dream now faces decades in prison. He was threatened by a whistleblower who threatened to expose him as the trial approached, and the media frenzy has reached fever pitch, outside the courthouse cameras flashing. What started out as a scandal has evolved into something much more, a warning of how fame, power, and greed can distort a man beyond recognition. Rick Harrison's legacy, which was once based on trust and televised charm, now crumbles beneath the surface of his carefully manicured image. A woman paid $100 for it, and the words were cold and casual, peeling back the last layer of Harrison's carefully manicured image. What kind of man hides that kind of truth behind a smile that has smiled into millions of homes? Rick Harrison's story began like many stories of the American dream. A determined man born in the glittering chaos of Las Vegas in 1965, raised in a military family, and cultivated in the gritty world of porn, dealing by his Navy veteran father, with grit, hustle, and an uncanny eye for detail. The weight of betrayal shattered innocence, and horrors that the world is only now beginning to comprehend. This isn't just the fall of a reality TV star, it's the unraveling of a carefully constructed illusion. A descent into a darkness few could have predicted. Rick's ability to negotiate turned a faltering family firm into porn stars. The hit show that made him a household name turned the gold and silver porn shop into a global phenomenon. Millions of people watched and trusted him, admiring his grounded personality, shrewd business sense, and nonsense charm. However, beneath the surface of this fame, behind the bright lights of television and the allure of rare collectibles, was a much darker reality. This is the story of how fame, fortune, and unbridled power corrupted a. Rick Harrison didn't just build a business. He built a fortress of lies concealing unimaginable secrets behind every antique deal and television smile. His confession, given in a courtroom under crushing pressure, shocked the world and destroyed everything he had built. As the truth came to light, so did shocking revelations of financial manipulation, involvement in human trafficking, and the alleged orchestration of murder to silence those who threatened his empire. As court documents, insider testimonies, and hidden records come to light, the true nature of Harrison's empire is being revealed, and it's far darker than anyone ever imagined. This is not just the story of a man who fell from grace, it's the exposé of how trust can be weaponized, how fame can be a mask for evil, and how a woman was allegedly purchased for $100. It also involved blood money laundering through the porn counter, and children trafficked through the very shop that people used to line up to visit. The most well-known television personalities in America may have orchestrated one of the most heinous criminal schemes in contemporary history. The facade has been destroyed. The truth is out, and this is just the beginning. Rick Harrison's early success was fueled by his ability to spot a good deal and his unwavering enthusiasm for the industry. But 2009 was a watershed year for both Rick and television history, as porn stars made their History Channel debuts, joining the reality TV boom at the same time. The idea was straightforward and showed the inner workings of a Las Vegas porn shop. But it wasn't the antiques or the haggling that made the show captivating. Rather, it was the people behind the counter. Rick, with his cool authority and astute business sense, his father, who was stern but wise, and his bold and charismatic son, Big Hoss, created a family dynamic that viewers couldn't help but watch. Almost immediately, porn stars became a worldwide sensation, drawing millions of viewers each week to watch rare finds. Heated negotiations, and tourists engaging in family banter started swarming to the gold and silver porn shop just to get a chance to see the stars in person. Rick Harrison was more than just the owner of a porn shop. He was a millionaire, a media personality, a brand, and his face was on billboards, talk shows, magazine covers, and talk shows all over the world. However, beneath the glossy exterior, something darker was starting to take hold. The higher Rick rose, the more pressure there was to uphold the wholesome image that porn stars had established. And behind the scenes, as fans watched him negotiate while grinning on TV, few could have predicted the storm that was brewing behind that smile, a storm that would eventually blow up into a scandal that would rock the world. Rick Harrison's collapse sends shockwaves through the reality television industry, casting a dark cloud over porn stars and forcing the History Channel into an awkward situation. The cameras stopped rolling, and Rick's life started to spiral out of control, hidden from public view. The network ultimately decided to suspend the show indefinitely, a decision that left fans divided. Some clung to nostalgia and continued to watch reruns, while others couldn't bear to see the show through the prism of betrayal for Harrison. This marks the definitive collapse of his television career, as the very show that made him famous also revealed the grim reality of who he truly was. Once admired as a clever strategist, once a feel-good success story, he was now viewed as the face of manipulation, lies, and the corrupted underbelly of reality TV. This shocking cautionary tale demonstrates how darker truths can fester hidden in plain sight, behind the polished charm and promise of the American dream. The truth behind the glitz and glamour of reality TV stars. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to watch our next videos. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.